Yo guys, what is up? Maxi here with a Starfield video, and I've been playing Starfield now for the past like week and a half. I've got over 40 hours in it. I'm on the last mission of the main campaign. I've done a lot of exploring. I built new ships. I built outposts. I think I've gotten a good taste of the game, but I have nowhere near finished the game. I probably, like in the grand scheme of things, have only done maybe 20% of the actual game. There's just so much game here. So I'm still in the beginning phases, but I feel like I've got a really good perspective on what this game is, and I want to adjust your expectations going in and talk about what the game does well and what it doesn't do very well. Hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's get right into it. So we're going to do some big talking points first, and then we'll get into more specifics. So to start us off, is the game buggy? It definitely has bugs, but I would not call this a buggy video game. There is one bug where your character just gets stuck and you can't move, and then you have to use third person, and then eventually it just goes away. And sometimes the AI is a little derpy, but in terms of like actual issues, I had zero crashes on my 40 hours of playing. I never had to reset due to an objective bugging out or an NPC not working. In terms of graphical bugs, there was basically zero. Sometimes it like a thing would like skitter around or like an object would get stuck on something. But in terms of a game this size, it's honestly, from my experience, like almost bug free. It's pretty crazy that they were able to pull this off. And I know that was like one of people's biggest fears, is this was just going to be a really buggy game. And there is bugs, but I think there's some minor ones and they're like repeat occurrences. So I'm assuming that they're going to get them patched and fixed. So yeah, doesn't feel like a buggy game to me. The next thing is performance. Performance is not good, but it's not bad. I'm currently on a 3090 on high settings, and right now I have 63 frames. I've seen my frames go down into the 40s. Sometimes it's in the 90s, but performance is a little bit all over the place. I would definitely be a little bit worried on running this on lower tier computers. Not sure how this is going to run on console. Just to show you my like display settings, I've got basically everything on high. I'm not using anything on ultra. I've got the FSR2 upscaling on, turned off my film grain, turned off my depth of field. And yeah, the game runs solid. It's not like I'm dropping massive frames during combat. The frames are relatively consistent. They're just not consistently high, if that makes sense. So like you're running around a city and it'll be a steady like 55, 60 FPS, which doesn't feel like terrible, but it's not like we're dropping frames in the middle of combat and you're super noticeable. I didn't notice frame drops. I just noticed low frame rates, if that makes sense. The next thing I want to talk about is a bit of a bummer, but like you move past it. I just didn't know if this was or not going to be a thing, but your spaceship is basically just for fast travel. You cannot, while you're in your spaceship, fly into a planet. You cannot go into space and fly towards a planet or a moon. It's basically you're just stuck in space, and you can be boosting towards the planet, but you'll never actually get into its atmosphere. You'll never actually like see the planet get closer. You're kind of just suspended in space. So there's this weird dynamic where you go into space and it's just to do like a space battle in an arena, and then you just teleport into a planet and land directly. You cannot fly your ship around the planet. It's all fast travel. And so what this leads to is anytime that you want to go somewhere, it's basically just loading screens. You're loading into space, you're in space, hit another button, you load into another area, and then you load into another area. And that kind of hurts the interconnectivity and the immersion of the game, because when you're first starting out and you're first playing, you want to explore this, you want to explore that, and it feels very much on rails for a space exploration game, because you have these like designated areas and designated pockets of space that you go to. You cannot just like free roam around in your vehicle. And so that is a bit of a bummer. Now, these actual planets, the way it works is, so this is a planet that I'm on, and I could land anywhere on this planet. So this is I just have an outpost here, and I could go and just fly to this swamp. As you can see, I will just like fast travel in. My ship doesn't even show up, and then I will be on this part, and it'll like populate this side of the planet. And you could like, I mean, I've seen some videos of people like hitting walls, but I have yet to encounter any sort of boundaries to my exploration. these areas will get populated with like random outposts and random like things. So like looks like we've got like a structure over there that I could go explore. And there's a ship landing down. Like there's activities that happen on these planets. Once you do a bunch of planets, you start to realize that the activities and the like things are pretty like repetitive, where it's like you'll just find an outpost, you kill some guys in it, and then you move on. It's not like you're gonna bump into like random NPCs, or like random towns that you wouldn't have known about. The like towns and the places for quests are pretty structured, and there is that sense of exploration, but it's not as good as No Man's Sky when it comes into like exploring different areas and places. It isn't, and I just wanted to make that expectation pretty clear. Like these enemies, these like guys, I've seen them on a bunch of different planets. I've probably gone to like 6 or 7 planets. I keep seeing these things, so it's not like crazy in the like planet discovery and just like, oh, I just go into this distance and I'll discover something. The planets that aren't populated with people aren't populated. There's not really much to explore there. That kind of leads me to my next point. The ships and the customization is crazy in depth. There is so much you can do with it, so many different weapons, so many ways to customize and build your ships. It's really in depth. People are going to go crazy with the things that they come up with. However, you're just not in your ship all that much. It just doesn't feel very important. You just click a few buttons in the menu and then you're to your destination. Your ship's lasers and stuff like that can come in handy, and the speed of it is nice to like go pick up some things. But because there's no like connectedness between space and the planets, you're just not in your ship. It's mainly just like a loading screen simulator. So the ships are really cool. There's just not that much to do with them besides fight the occasional pirate in space. The next thing I want to talk about is the skill tree and general progression. I'm 40 hours into this game, and it looks like I've hardly touched my skill tree. That is because every single one of these skills, I think there's like more than 75, 80 of them. Every single one of them has 4 ranks, and those 4 ranks have generally like game-altering things. So, for example, like I'm into stealth. You're 100% more difficult to detect when sneaking. Suppressed weapons do an additional 20% sneak attack damage. Doors you interact with while in stealth no longer alert enemies. That was one of the big issues I was having when I was doing my stealth playthrough, is when I would go into a new room or I'd open a door, all the enemies would be like, hey, someone just opened a door, and then I would get screwed. And so there's like generally like game-changing things in these ranks. And so there's all these skills, but then these skills have ranks. And the crazy thing about these skills with their ranks is that in order to rank them up, you actually need to do challenges. So for example, for concealment, I'm currently at rank 2. I think I'm either rank 2 or rank 1. Sometimes it's hard to tell. But I need to perform 30 melee unarmed sneak attacks. So I need to find at least 30 enemies and then successfully sneak up to them, which, by the way, stealth is way like less powerful in this game. It's still very powerful, but enemies detect you really easily. You kind of need some invisibility powers to make stealth worthwhile, which you actually get here at rank 3. But every single thing has challenges. So, for example, I've been working on my research methods, and this is really the only thing I want to put points into, and I need to craft 10 unique food, drinks, drugs, weapon mods, or equipment mods, and in order to do that, I need to get all the resources to make 10 different things, which I already had to do for the rank 1, and so now I've got to go out and I'm interacting with the game to do these different things so that I can research them, so that I can work on my weapon engineering. The amount of like grind and just content that there is within these skills is awesome. And the other reason that this method is awesome is because however you play your character and pick your skills, it dictates the way that you actually have to play. So, for example, what I mean by that is if I pick, let's say, the rifle certification, I need to kill 50 enemies with rifles. Because I've got this requirement, I'm going to be using rifles more. I know that sounds a bit obvious, but the skills that you pick tailor the way that you're going to be going into, because in order to progress them, you got to be using a rifle. So I'm not going to be using a shotgun or a pistol, and as I rank up these skills, you're basically dictating not only the things that you're going into, but the things that you're going to be using, because you need to use them. You need to use them in order to progress these skills and make meaningful progression in the game. The other thing that's kind of crazy is there's no max level and there's no respec, meaning every single point that you put in means a lot because there's no way to reset. There's no way to test something out. And so going in and kind of like looking at these skills and making a plan for the character that you want to be is actually pretty important. And I do like that. Eventually, you're going to get everything. But I'm now level, what am I, like 27? Skill points are starting to get slower. I got to find some more quests. Doing quests seems to be the fastest way to level up. And yeah, I've just like the feeling of progression from not being able to do any stealth things at all to now I go invisible. I do tons of stealth damage. I'm boosting up my rifle damage. I'm building a sniper. I'm currently trying to get a sniper with a silencer, but I can't have that sniper with a silencer until I get weapon engineering, and then I need to go do other things out in the world to unlock weapon engineering. There is a ton of time to put into the skill tree, and I think they nailed it. The next thing to talk about is the weapons and gear. The way that they've done this is awesome. It actually is very Borderlands-esque with weapons rolling with tons of different perks. So for example, I got this legendary pistol. It rolled with bashing, deals double damage when gun bashing, rapid increased attack speed, and explosive randomly switches to explosive rounds. Now, a lot of these perks that you get on weapons are built into the weapon. You cannot swap them out. So for example, this rifle rolled with corrosive rounds randomly deals corrosive damage and reduces the target's armor over 6 seconds. This is an awesome perk, and you're gonna be getting randomized things. It's not like you go out and you get a specific set weapon and I can make a video and tell you exactly where to get this exact thing, because when I roll back my save, you'll get a different weapon or different perks. So like everyone's getting different weapons, which feels really cool, and you can look for these god rolls. And on top of that, when you're trying to find these things, the perks like instigating, corrosive, demoralizing, those are all random. Those all get on your weapon. However, the actual attachments, tech barrel, muzzle brake, tactical grip, burst fire, those are all customizable, and you have to work on your like weapon crafting. But I could add a sight to this. I could add a silencer. I could add a better trigger, and all of those things I can add, but I would keep the perks. And so the loot actually feels really good. It's actually amazing how good getting a new weapon or a new thing works. You are going to be holding on to these weapons that you find for a very, very long time if they roll well. For example, I found a knife that rolled with deals double damage to targets with full health. I haven't found that on another melee weapon. It's perfect for my stealth playthrough because I just deal double damage whenever I sneak attack. And I've already got a bunch of multipliers to deal more damage whenever I sneak attack with a melee weapon. So this has just been my weapon, and I found it at like level 5. And because it rolled this perk, it's just been like very important for me. So the chance to get this upgrade to randomly find an amazing weapon is always around the corner. And that's what makes this game looting feel so good, because you're not going to get a set thing. It's going to be a randomized weapon and a random loot. Every time you open up a crate, it's like trying to win the lottery and get like this perfect weapon with the perfect parts and legendaries. And you're going to be doing a ton of looting before you find things that like really start to work well. And I think they nailed that as well. Next up, we get to talk about the story. Now, the story in this game starts out very slow. It's a slow burn. It's quite tedious. The game doesn't pick up till later, and the main story does not pick up until way later. The main story in this game is really tedious. It has you basically doing fetch quests where you got to go somewhere and find something and grab it, and you do that like 15 times, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. I started to lose it a little bit, honestly. However, once you do all that tedious stuff, it then picks up, and the tail end of the story gets really interesting. And there's a lot to discover with that tail end, and it really ties everything together, and it's worth, like it is worth at the end. But for the first like 20 hours of this game, the side content and the side quests and the side things are all going to be way more interesting and engaging and give you cooler things to go do. I really enjoyed some of the side content that I've done. I have mainly focused on main story stuff, but the side content that I have done has been better in a lot of ways than the main story stuff. But once again, main story gets good later, just really not good in the beginning. Unfortunately. Lastly, I want to talk about the magic of Skyrim and the art of getting sidetracked. Now, when I played Skyrim, which I did for the first time pretty recently, one of the best things that the game does that I don't think any other game has done quite as well is the ability to sidetrack you. You're going to a main quest or you're doing something, and on your way there, you encounter an unexplored cave or a new dungeon. Someone comes up to you and they have a quest. So many of the times while I was playing Skyrim, I would have a goal in mind, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing something completely different, and that thing leads to something else. And like 3 hours later, I totally forgot what I was supposed to be doing. I don't think Starfield does this as well as something like Skyrim. The reason for that is the game, the way that it's structured, is you go into these towns that are populated, that have a lot of NPCs, and all those NPCs will give you a bunch of quests to do. And you're going to get like a ton of quests and you're not sure which one to do, and then you'll pick one. This one sounds interesting. You'll go do it, and it'll bring you to a planet. And on that planet, there's really only that quest to do. There's not really much to get sidetracked on the planets. Yes, they do have some like outposts and things like that, but there isn't just much rewarding content to do on the planets. So what happens is the flow is you go to a planet, you do your quest, you come back, you turn it in. Maybe you'll get another side quest. You'll go to another planet, do that, and turn it in. And it feels a lot more back and forth with the structure of the game. And I didn't really ever find myself getting sidetracked, besides like when I was looking to get sidetracked, if I was actively seeking to get sidetracked. Versus Skyrim, I feel like that was just something that would happen, and you weren't really in control of it. It would just be distractions popping up and kind of making you interested enough to do them. And so I don't think Starfield captures this magic as well. That's not like a knock on the game. I just think the structure of this game is a lot more linear. Even though it's this big space game, you're kind of going to mission, knock out mission, turn it in, grab another mission, go to other planet, knock that out, come back, turn it in, kind of type of deal. All in all, I'd probably give Starfield an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's the best game that I've played this year. I think that's probably a Remnant 2. And I don't think it's this best space exploration game on the market either. No Man's Sky and Star Citizen, I think, do space exploration better than Starfield. What Starfield does really well, though, is be an RPG. There's so many decisions to make, so many people to interact with, so many towns to explore, and so many ways that you can choose your own adventure. And as an RPG, I think it excels. The skill trees are awesome, the loot is awesome, and there's just so much to do in this game. In terms of bang for your buck, it's pretty ridiculous how much content there seems to be out there in this game if you want to do it. However, the game starts slow. There's a distinct lack of this like immersion when it comes to exploring space, because it seems to be a lot of just loading screens. I don't know if that is something that might get addressed in the future. The planets are awesome. They're massive, but there just isn't that much mystery to them once you've done a bunch. It just seems to be the same thing over and over again, where the planets definitely seem randomly generated, but the actual activities on the planets don't seem randomly generated. You kind of run into the same activities over and over on each of the planets. And so overall, as a space sim RPG, I think this game is really good. However, I do not think it's the best thing I've played, and I don't think it's the best space exploration game. I definitely think this is going to be one that's people are going to want to pick up, and they've already been very open to the amount of mod support that they're going to allow, and this game is only going to evolve. As a launch, it's really good. It's bug-free. This frame rate is solid. It doesn't run at high frames, but it runs at steady frames, and it's probably their best launch that they've done, to be honest. And I just cannot wait to see what the mod community does for this game in terms of just blowing the doors wide open. But yeah, guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Huge thanks to Bethesda for giving me an early access copy to make content and play this game. Really honored to have that opportunity. And yeah, guys, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Let me know if you plan on picking up Starfield or what your thoughts are on my impressions. I'll catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.